Sri Krishna, who gave tremendous joy to the mother Devaki. We shall offer our salutations to him. We shall pray to the Divine Lord to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. We have just started Bhagavad Gita, the divine message given by Sri Krishna in the battlefield. Bhagavad Gita is most important scripture. It shows why people suffer. It shows the cause of bondage. And Bhagavad Gita gives finally remedy for all the problems we are facing in life. The whole universe is governed by cause and effect. So we should find out the cause of suffering, then remedy is easy. Lord Krishna points out why we are in bondage. Why are we suffering? It is because we are influenced tremendously by ragadvesh, likes and dislikes. And lobha, moha, mada, matsarya, greed, egoism, jealousy. These are all terrible causes for bondage. So we are constantly being influenced by these. That's why they are called as Arishad Vargas, 6 enemies. Sri Ramakrishna calls them as alligators. So the senses and the mind, they drag the soul to the things of the world, and we are drowned in the atmosphere of worldliness. So we must have to learn, educate ourselves to free from this terrible bondage of suffering. Suffering. The goal of spirituality is to free from suffering. The moment we are free from suffering, it opens the floodgate of bliss, peace and happiness. Peace is the highest form of bliss. So, Lord Krishna gives the philosophy how we should conduct ourselves in life, how we should perform our duties, how we should meditate upon, how we should worship, how we should completely depend upon the Divine Lord, and how we should sharpen our intellect. So everything is given very clear. In spite of all these most clear, pointed, specific instructions, still we suffer because we are not really serious or sincere about spiritual life. We want the life to go in our own way. That cannot be. Never expect that. The life can never go in the way you want. It will go in its own way. So, if you are very obstinate, stubborn, not to learn, then all right, suffer more. That's all. There is no other way. It means you must learn and educate yourself. I always keep telling, ignorance is no excuse. I didn't know. So what? I didn't know whether I would burn my finger by putting hand in the fire. Do you mean to say Agni will be gracious not to burn you? The nature of Agni is to burn. Anyway, here Bhagavad Gita starts. In the beginning, how Arjuna was totally down with tremendous desperation, despondency. It was so terrible, unbearable. He forgot. He lost all the power of thinking. He lost all sense of duty. He got terribly confused about the performance of duty. But luckily, he had most beloved, trusted friend, Divine Lord Krishna himself. So he was protected, uplifted, raised up from terrible mess of suffering. So this shows us the way. In spite of our utmost suffering in this world, there is a hope, provided we turn, put our ego under feet, trample the ego, be humble, approach the divine, you will be uplifted. Apichet suduracharo bhajate ma mananya bhak. So, even if a man has committed heinous crimes, if he takes to worship of the divine, all his bad samskaras will be uprooted. There is no doubt about it. Don't have any doubt about it, Lord Krishna says. What more assurance you want? The point is, we must make our spiritual practice, make sadhana sincerely. It takes time. Realization of the truth comes only when all the impurities of the mind are cleared off. And that clearing of the impurities, the responsibility of clearing of the impurities are borne by Divine Lord himself. He himself will remove all the dirt. Only we should turn to him, surrender to him, touch his feet wholeheartedly, crush your ego, You are simply nothing. All your egotism, boastfulness are simply harmful. So preparing your life, preparations take quite a long time. But then there is lot of opportunity. You will be coming back and forth again into this world. Why? Every time you come, that is the opportunity given to you by the grace of God. If you don't use that opportunity, alright, come again. God is infinitely gracious. But it's not easy, because we do perform bad actions, knowingly or unknowingly. They can't go without result. They can't go without effect. It affects us. So here, the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is called Arjuna's Yoga of Despondency. That was the background. That was the starting point. Because of the total despondency, he called upon the divine. Same thing you find in Sri Ramakrishna's life, how Girish Chandra goes. Very notorious and most vicious person, he himself declared that he had committed Himalayan blunders. Drinking, all sorts of bad habits. Finally, he was so much disgusted about himself. In that utter hopeless and helpless state, he went to Tarkeshwar temple, Lord Shiva's abode, and prayed wholeheartedly, sincerely. Oh God, will you please help me to get up from this terrible state? Luckily his prayer was answered. He came in contact with Sri Ramakrishna. Just as Sri Krishna was to Arjun, Sri Ramakrishna was to Girish Chandra Ghosh. The sinner transformed himself into a great, most beloved devotee. So here, this first chapter, it introduces the scene, the setting, circumstances, and the characters involved, determining the purpose for the Bhagavad Gita's exposure. Where is the scene? The scene is the sacred field known as Kurukshetra. If you go to India, please visit Kurukshetra. There is a station. The whole thing is like a desert. So the sacred field known as Kurukshetra, the setting is a battlefield. The circumstances are, that is war, Yuddha. The main characters are the Supreme Lord Krishna and Prince Arjun, one of the warriors. Arjun's lamentation is described due to his fear of losing friends and relatives on the battlefield. His main obstacle is related to the consequences regarding the dharma of his karmic actions. The last three stanzas where Arjun talks about such relevant issues for this chapter Ahobatapam kartum vyavasitavayam yadrajya sukalobena hantum swajanamudyataha. Alas, Arjuna is telling, we are ready to commit a great sin by striving to kill our kinsman because of greed for the pleasures of the kingdom. Yademam apratikaram shastram shastrapaneyaha dhatarashtra rane hanyustan me kshemataram bhavet. It would be far better for me if the sons of Dhritarashtra, that is Kauravas, should kill me with their weapons in battle while I am unarmed and unresisting. That is 45 verse number 46. Then verse number 47. Sanjaya said, Eva muktva Arjuna sankhe rathopastu upavishat visrajya sasram chapam shoka samvigna manasaha. Sanjaya said, having said this in the battlefield and casting aside his bow and arrow, Arjuna sat down on the seat of the chariot, which his mind overwhelmed with sorrow. He could not bear that. Of course, when they entered into battlefield, they were all very valorous and vigorous. But once he came facing the people whom to fight, then suddenly from nowhere, despondency grabbed him. Well, the first verse in the Bhagavad Gita, Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yutsavaha Mamakav Pandavaschaiva Kimukurvata Sanjaya. So the first verse in the Bhagavad Gita starts with the word Dharma. It's most relevant and most significant. It starts with Dharma. The literal meaning of this verse is, Dhritarashtra asks Sanjay, O Sanjay, what did my sons and Pandavas arrayed in the sacred field of Kurukshetra, wishing to fight with one another, do? What did they do? It's a question by Dhritarashtra to Sanjay to tell him how each army fared, what turn the battle was taking, who was winning, and the like. That is, Dhritarashtra puts the question wishing to know the details of the battle. Dhritarashtra could not see, he was blindfolded. He was blind, not blindfolded, he was blind. Bhagavad Gita comes in the Bhishma Parva of the Mahabharata, chapter 25 to 42. Bhishma Parva. Before that, let us take chapter 13 onwards. There, the Kurukshetra war had just been decided upon. Vedavyas tells Dhritarashtra, O king, you are a blind man. You may be interested in seeing the battle. If you wish, I can give you divya drishti. Divya drishti. That means I can give you divine power to see, so that you may not miss anything. Do you want it? Vyaspashi asks Sanjay, do you want it? I am prepared to give. Dhritarashtra replies, this reply is very significant. Sir, I know my children are adharmis, unrighteous. I know that. And they are doomed to die in this battle. I do not want to witness it. If you want to help me, give Sanjay Divya Drishti. He is my trusted friend, and he will report to me whatever he sees with his divine eyes. Accordingly, Vyasa gives Sanjaya Divya Drishti, special power of seeing the whole battlefield. As soon as Sanjay obtained it, he explains in beautiful terms what all he could see and gather, the frontiers of the then India, the various gushing rivers, the mighty mountains and so on. He gives a beautiful graphic description of the country. Then he goes to the battlefield and returns only on the 10th day to report to Dhritarashtra. On the 10th day, Sanjay is coming back to report to Dhritarashtra. Meanwhile, the king is ruminating over the war and how his sons have fared. Sanjay returns and says, "My prostrations to you, O king. I have to convey to you the news of the death of your grandfather Bhishma. You are indirectly responsible for it." Sanjay tells him, while executing those crooked plans of his, that is, the game at dice and the eventful exile, Duryodhana knew that the Pandavas would come back and fight with him, and that they, being powerful, would defeat him. In spite of knowing all these things, yet he did it. What gave him courage then to Duryodhana to do that? He thought, as long as Bhishma is on our side, we can't be defeated. That very Bhishma, depending on whose strength your son went to this war, Sanjay is telling Dhritarashtra, has been killed. The mighty tree has been uprooted. Bhishma did not deserve this. You are responsible for his death. By your refusal to stop the war, Dhritarashtra could have stopped it. But you know, attachment to the sons took priority. You should have advised Duryodhana to give the Pandavas the rightful share of the kingdom. You are mentally blinded by the mistaken love for your son. Dhritarashtra said, "Oh Sanjay, I can never believe it. How could that greatest man of the Kuru dynasty be killed? Anybody hearing this news will crumble down. How did he feel? How were you able to withstand the shock when he was killed? How are you able to talk about his death so calmly? You do not seem to be upset. I am confused and upset even on hearing the news. Who among the Pandavas was responsible for killing the great sir, depending on whom Duryodhana went into the battle? Bhishma was great in every way, physically, mentally, intellectually, and spiritually. He never deflected from dharma. He was absolutely pure at heart. You must know that he was a brahmacharin. He never married. Throughout his life he was celibate. That was his power. If he could be killed, can there be any real dharma in this world? Dhritarashtra is lamenting. Has dharma any value? Bhishma having fallen, I am absolutely sure all the other warriors on our side will also be killed. After having spoken thus, Dhritarashtra started introspecting. If those Pandavas who apparently are dharmis, following dharma, can kill Bhishma, their own revered grand sir, the greatest of dharmis, I am sure the world has turned upside down. It does seem that adharma is stronger than dharma. But that cannot be so. Why should I blame the world, the Pandavas or anybody else for his death? However good a man may be, however great, however courageous, however mighty, however gifted or however small, however cowardly or however mean, he was sure to meet with death sometime or other. He can't escape it. It is the eternal law of nature that anything that comes into this world has to pass away from the surface of the world sooner or later. So I have no right to blame anybody. Are the Pandavas actually responsible for this war, or are my sons responsible for it? Because of their greed, my sons made Bhishma a stooge. Only their insatiable desire sent him to his death. On the other hand, the Pandavas have not perpetrated any crime. They have gone through all the mediatory processes, Shama, Samadana and Bheda. Samadana, Bheda, Dana. 4 are there, So Samadana, Bheda, 3 are over. Finally they have to take danda. Only when we are not amenable to any of these, they entered the war as a very last resort. They were doing their Kshatriya dharma. Seeing adharma, one should not run away from it. One has to fight it, even sacrificing one's own life. Thus, Dhritarashtra first started blaming the Pandavas, then finally ended blaming himself. Again he spoke to Sanjay. I was perturbed by a premonition that all my sons will be killed. That has only been reinforced by your conveying the news of Bhishma's fall. You are making my mind, which already is burning, burn all the more. Tell me all that has taken place in the battlefield. On the side of my sons, there were 11 Akshohinis, divisions, while on the Pandavas side there were only 7 divisions. How could Yudhishthira, with a smaller army, get an upper hand and kill Bhishma? How did he array his army? Bhishma was an expert in arraying his army. How could Yudhishthira outwit Bhishma? Who were the people who fought there with courage, with cheerfulness and enthusiasm? Who were the ones who were trembling and cowardly? Who fought the best and who the worst? When Sanjay was about to answer, Dhritarashtra, stopping him, asked one more question, which constitutes the first verse in the Gita. Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yutsavaha Mamakav Pandavascheva Kimukurvata Sanjaya. The usual interpretation of this verse is that Dhritarashtra wants to know the way the battle is heading. But a more apt interpretation under the circumstances would seem to be that Dhritarashtra, struck by Sanjaya's cool and serene attitude in bringing the news, suspects that some wonderful dharma must have been expounded in the battlefield. He introspects, what was the dharma that made Bhishma so courageous, that made him sacrifice his life so cheerfully? Some dharma, which I do not know, must have been the fort of Bhishma. Similarly, some dharma must have fortified the Pandavas, which made them ready to kill even Bhishma, whom they revered so much, when they had to do it without option. The Pandavas could not have killed Bhishma without somebody convincing them that it was right for them to do so. Also, Sanjay is reporting the news without the least taint of agony. He behaves so serenely. What is sustaining him? Why is he not sorry? If there is some such dharma which made him proof against the worst sorrows, I must know it, so that I may also be sustained by it at times of crisis. There is a great thirst in me to find out that dharma. So he asks Sanjaya, what was it that happened in the field? Tell me that. Even such a mediocre man as Dhritarashtra realizes that he is weak and bad and wants to know the higher dharma, knowing which he can improve. Bad alone never exists in this world. It is always accompanied by good. However bad a man may be, there is always some good also in him. However good a man may be, there is always at least a trace of bad in him. But a man can rise up to a higher plane where he transcends both good and bad. This he can do by realizing his own absolute nature. Good and bad are on the relative plane. But man is infinitely higher. He is the absolute, the infinite reality itself. Make your mind pure. There is something higher than all these worldly affairs we are entangled in. Our Sanatana Dharma is one which, when realized, can make us fear not anything. Our Dharma is not a list of do's and don'ts. It is a science of our very being, our life. It is a process of developing and perfecting something wonderful available in our very constitution, and not yearning for some abode beyond the clouds, whether it be our going there or its coming down to us. Vedanta tells us the way to attain perfection through Sanatana Dharma. That state of perfection, that state of Ch.1 Mukti, is one attaining which we are not disturbed, we are not perturbed by anything happening to us. It is a state of Nitya Tripti, perfect contentment. Attaining that, you will want nothing more from the world. Only when we are imperfect in ourselves, we mistakenly think we can get the perfection we are lacking from the world outside. That is the folly. Perfection and contentment can only be had from within. Seek it, realize it, attain it. Become good yourself and then try to improve the world. As your goodness increases, you will find the world also getting better and better. The world can never be fully perfect. It is changing, ephemeral. It cannot give permanent joy. Real permanent joy is to be had from within us. Poverty, disease and death are the greatest miseries we can think of. Still we can face them without getting affected. We can rise above them only by realizing our own self, our true nature. Amidst chaos, you must find cosmos. People are worried that the world is bad, but it is not so. What makes you all come here and focus on the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita? It is a thirst in you to evolve higher. That's a good sign. So, we must aspire for the Paravidya, knowledge about the self. Aparavidya means knowledge of the world. The object of Vedanta is to make man perfectly and permanently contented by realizing his own true nature. It has nothing to offer to a perfectly contented man. He feels fulfillment in Ananda. Knowledge of the absolute existence is the same as the attainment of God. God is Chidananda. He is both personal and purely impersonal. The Sarveshvara is pure existence, pure knowledge, pure bliss, all in one. When we take to Vedanta, we have got to leave aside the lesser conceptions of God. From the personal God, we have to realize our vision to the impersonal. We are now in darkness, and you have to come here for some light. When there is darkness, you cannot remove it by wrestling with it, by fighting with it. Bring in the light. The darkness automatically disappears. Similarly, we are wallowing in ignorance, the darkness of the mind and intellect. Will this ignorance go if you fight with it? No. Ignorance can go only when you flood your mind and intellect with the light of knowledge. That knowledge, the supreme knowledge, is what we get from the Bhagavad Gita. Mere listening will not do. Of course, first we should hear it, Ch.1. The next important step is think over it, Manan. Turning it over and over in the mind, cogitation. Once you are convinced, assimilate it and live your convictions and then meditate. Nididhyasan. Ch.1, Madan, Ch.1, Manan, Nididhyasan. These are the processes involved in realizing our true infinite self. Arjuna was a courageous and chivalrous man. He was a great devotee of Shiva and other gods. He did great tapas to get the Pashupatastra. He was unequaled in archery. Unexpectedly, a sorrow possessed him. He found himself in a position where he had to fight and kill his very kith and kin and his guru. All his secular accomplishments could not give him strength in this crisis. He felt weak and confused. Then he asked Sri Krishna, Karpanya dosho pahata svabhavaha prachami tvam dharma samudha chetaha yachreyaha syan nishitam bruhitan me shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. O Krishna, please help me. I do not know what is beneficial to me. I am confused about my dharma. What is better, to win over the Kauravas or to let them win over us? Will their killing us be better or our killing them? If we were to kill our own people, can we ever be happy? Arjuna's chariot has been placed by Krishna just in front of Bhishma and Drona. So Arjuna's chief concern is about them. He says, those very people for whom I want to win this war are standing in the battlefield, ready to kill or be killed in the war. Bhishma is the one I revere and love above everyone, and Drona is the one who taught me everything I know. They are worthy of worship by me. Instead of showering flowers, how am I to shower arrows on them? They are standing in the battlefield ready to kill or be killed. My Viveka, discriminative capacity, is covered by a taint of delusion and ignorance. I am unable to think for myself. I do not know what is the right thing for me to do. O Krishna, I surrender myself to you. What all had hitherto understood to be my dharma has not been able to sustain me at this critical juncture. I am overpowered by sorrow. Do not think you can tempt me with an empire, for I do not want it. If I fight, there can only be two possibilities. Winning, I will get the empire for my dear brothers, or dying, I will go to Swarga and get heavenly position. To get either of these, I will have to fight. But how am I to fight when I am unable even to lift my bow? My skin is burning, my mouth is parched, I am a physical and mental wreck. So do not ask me to fight. Do not plead with me to stand up. I am unable to do so. But instead tell me that knowing which this sorrow, this weakness that has overpowered me can be eradicated at once. Tell me such a dharma alone. I do not want anything else. Having uttered these words, Arjun kept silent. What is the use of all our accomplishments and worldly successes if in moments of crisis we are not able to face them calmly and courageously? This was the plight of Arjun, which made him turn to Sri Krishna for knowing that dharma which would sustain him in any crisis. In spite of all his accomplishments, Arjun felt impotent at that critical time. Arjun is called Gudakesha, which means one who has controlled sleep. Not only that, he could control his hunger also. But no amount of physical strength and endurance of accomplishments could help him, for he was lacking in jnana, knowledge. If this be the case with him, what about us? Are we also not faced with tragedies, disappointments, anxieties and afflictions? If we are not able to find a solution to all this in our religion, what is it worth? Does religion provide something for this? Yes, it does. How? Through Vedanta. That's why Swami Vivekananda spoke, Vedanta is the future religion. He gave a beautiful talk in San Francisco. If you have not read, please read that. What Arjun is instinctively after is that Sanatana Dharma, having which he will be ever free from all weaknesses and sorrows, knowing which he will be able to face cheerfully any situation in life, poverty, disease, death and mental misery. Is it not the innermost wish of each and everyone? Does not everyone want unalloyed permanent happiness? Is there a single individual who doesn't want happiness? There cannot be. That joy, that ananda alone is permanent, from which there never is a fall again into misery and sorrow, under any circumstance whatever. If there is anyone who does not want it, I would say he is a fool. Those who think that anything short of it can give them abiding happiness, they are also fools. Their fate invariably would be coming into the earth and going away from it again and again. That is, repeated births and deaths till they realize this truth. Once the truth is realized, that man is forever free from all sorrows and miseries. He will bubble with joy. Do you not want the joy? Do you not want to float on the top of Ananda forever? On the sacred field of Kurukshetra, the Gita commences with a dialogue between Dhritarashtra and Sanjay. Sri Vedavyasa, the author of the Mahabharata, makes Sanjay give the blind Dhritarashtra a running commentary of the whole battle. Sanjay is giving him a vivid description in the minutest detail. Dhritarashtra asks, "Tell me, Sanjay, what did the sons of Pandu and mine do when they gathered on the sacred field of Kurukshetra?" Spiritually blind also as he is, Dhritarashtra betrays his attachment to and fondness for his own sons as against the sons of Pandu. He did not ask Sanjay how the war progressed. Instead, he inquired what the Pandavas did. He fondly expected that when the noble Pandavas assembled on the battlefield ready for war, their piety would be roused, and out of the goodness of their heart, they would voluntarily give up all claims to the kingdom. Earlier, this wily and selfish old king had sent words to the Pandavas through Sanjay thus, "O sons of Pandu, my sons are after all wicked and quarrelsome, but at least you are good and noble. Therefore, give up your claim to the kingdom, retire to the forest and spend the rest of your days in peace." He had hoped that this advice would have some effect on at least one of the Pandavas, if not all. And it is as though to see whether any of them had been demoralized that he asked Sanjaya the above question. In fact, Dhritarashtra's advice did not really go in vain. The valiant Arjun himself becomes thoroughly demoralized and loses the determination to fight. He becomes a nervous wreck, and the Pandavas, having spent 13 years in the forest, would not be able to raise a respectable army in such a short time. He had hoped that the Pandavas would be disheartened on seeing your majestic army, but on the contrary, it is Duryodhan who has got unnerved on seeing the mighty Pandava army. As narrated in the Sabha Parva, when Bhima under provocation vowed that he would kill Duryodhan and others, they got so frightened about their lives that they ran to Dronacharya and got from him an assurance of protection. Now the bewildered Duryodhan goes to Dronacharya and describes the heroes on either side and expresses his genuine doubt and fear whether his army under the command of Bhishma would ever be able to vanquish the army commanded by Bhima. The Pandava army has a very high morale. They are determined to strike down the forces of evil. They are inspired by noble and revolutionary ideas and ideals. Besides possessing strength of character, they are led by no less a hero than the mighty Bhimasena himself, who is a very embodiment of discipline and devotion. On the other hand, the Kaurava army is full of mercenaries and time servers. They are not fighting for any principle or just cause. Their heart is not in it, and they are carrying on the war much against their will. They are in the war because they are under obligation to Duryodhan. No doubt Bhishma is a celebrated warrior, but he knows that he is backing a wrong horse. His heart is not in this unholy war. Apart from hatred and animosity, there is no other ideal to inspire the Kaurava army. Comparing the leadership of Bhishma and Bhima from this point of view, and realizing the weaknesses of his army due to lack of determination and strength of character, Duryodhana becomes nervous and runs to Dronacharya and expresses his doubt about the final outcome of the war. Seeing that Duryodhana is nervous, Bhishma and his followers blow their conchs as though to infuse fresh life and courage into him. To this, the Pandavas reply by blowing their own conchs. Tatashvetairai yukte mahatis sandane sthitau madhava pandavaschaiva divya ushankau padadmatuhu. Krishna and Arjun, seated in a chariot drawn by white stallions, also blow their divine conchs, making a sound like the syllable Om of the Vedas. This sound is indeed a fitting invocation for the great teaching about to flow out from the divine lips of the Lord. When the Kaurava and the Pandava armies are thus lined up, and when the war is about to commence, Arjun asks his charioteer Sri Krishna to position his chariot between the two armies so that he could have a view of his adversaries. When the chariot is thus positioned by Sri Krishna, Arjun takes a good look at both the armies. He immediately gets a shock because in the opposite army he sees the familiar faces of his kinsmen, teachers and friends. He curses the fate that brings him to fight his dear and near ones. Arjun gets perplexed, thoroughly confused, and has a virtual nervous breakdown. He tells Krishna that he has resolved not to fight his own people, and in support of this he puts forth the following arguments. The argument is this: this terrible war which is about to begin will do good neither in this life nor in the next. If I win the war, I may get the kingdom, but I lose more than what I gain. What good is it? What happiness is it if I have to build my empire on the graves of my revered teachers, beloved friends, and my own kinsmen? If I win, I may acquire all the wealth of the world, but it will not give me any happiness or peace of mind. Will any plant sprout from fried seeds? Similarly, what enjoyment can sprout in a heart burning with sorrow from the death of one's kinsman? I covet not such a kingdom, because it will only be soiled by the blood of my own relatives. By this cruel act, how can I get any happiness in the next life either? No doubt my cousins, the sons of Dhritarashtra, are wicked, and they had tried in many ways to kill us by poison and fire, and they deserve to be annihilated, but we are not fighting them alone. Along with them there are other relatives, friends and preceptors, and we have perforce to kill them. In the name of killing wicked people like Duryodhana and others, we will kill innocent people also, and we ourselves become cruel and wicked, and will be bereft of heaven. We shall have to keep company with them in hell. Thus does Arjuna feel that the war would lead to happiness neither in this life nor in the afterlife. Further, he feels the war would lead to many social ills. Each and every house has sent its able-bodied men into this war. Most of them would be killed, and hence the male population would diminish, and the women perforce might go astray. Castes and communities would get mixed up. The social structure would crumble, and immorality and vice would play havoc, undermining the whole social structure. These are no doubt some of the evils of war, and we have seen all these things happening after the recent world war. How it is true. Having thus narrated the evils of war for the individual, both in this life and in the afterlife, and for the society as a whole, Arjuna reiterates his earlier resolve not to fight. It is better to beg and fill one's belly. It is better to spend one's life in a forest like a mendicant than kill one's kinsman for the sake of this earthly kingdom. Thus saying, Arjuna lays down his weapons and sits dejected. At this, Sri Krishna chides Arjuna for his lack of will and faint-heartedness, and inspires him to rise to the heroic occasion befitting his birth and stature. But Arjuna is adamant. Under a heavy delusion, he spurns both the kingdom of the whole earth and heaven, if they were to be secured only by the slaughter of his kinsman. Arjuna is thus tossed between two opposing duties: duty as a Kshatriya to kill the enemies, and duty as an ordinary householder to show reverence to his elders and preceptors. He is confused and knows not this right path. He knows not the right path. He is also aware that his vision is clouded by his attachment to his kinsman, and that he is using high-sounding philosophic arguments only to cover his weakness. He thus surrenders himself completely to Sri Krishna and implores him to take him as his disciple and show him the right path. So finally, Lord Krishna has to take the responsibility of inspiring and transforming the life of Arjuna. Let us continue next Tuesday. Chant the name of the Lord and His glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quench that mighty forest fire, worldly lust raging furiously within. O name, stream down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself. O self, drowned deep in the waves of His bliss, tasting His nectar at every step, bathing in His name that bath for various souls. Various are thy names, O Lord. In each and every name thy power resides. No times are set, no rites are needful for chanting of thy name. So vast is thy mercy. How huge then is my wretchedness, who find in this empty life and heart no devotion to thy name. O my mind, be humbler than a blade of grass. Be patient and forbearing like a tree. Take no honor to thyself, give honor to all. Chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. O Lord and soul of the universe, mine is no prayer for wealth or retinue. The playthings of lust or the toys of fame. As many times as I may be reborn, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for thee. A drowning man in this world's fearful ocean is thy servant, O sweet one. In thy mercy consider him as dust beneath thy feet. Ah, how I long for the day when an instant's separation from thee, O Lord, will be as 1,000 years, when my heart burns away with its desire, and the world without thee is a heartless void. Prostrate at thy feet let me be, in unwavering devotion, neither imploring the embrace of thine arms, nor bewailing the withdrawal of thy presence, though it tears my soul asunder. O thou who stillest the hearts of thy devotees, do with me what thou wilt, for thou art my heart's beloved, thou and thou alone. O Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light, and lead us from death to immortality. May all be free from dangers. May all realize what is good. May all be actuated by noble thoughts. May all rejoice everywhere. May all be happy. May all be free from disease. May all realize what is good. May none be subject to misery. May the wicked become virtuous. May the virtuous attain tranquility. May the tranquil be free from bonds. May the freed make others free. May good betide all people. May the sovereign righteously rule the earth. May all beings ever attain what is good. May the worlds be prosperous and happy. May the clouds pour rain in time. May the earth be blessed with crops. May all countries be freed from calamity. May holy men live without fear. May the Lord, the destroyer of sins, the presiding deity of all sacred works, be satisfied. For he being pleased, the whole universe becomes pleased. He being satisfied, the whole universe feels satisfied.